Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to this course on transition metal organometallics in catalysis and biology. We have been discussing about olefin polymerization, and in particular we have covered ethylene polymerization and propylene polymerization in the last few lectures. With regard to both of these, ethylene polymerization as well as propylene polymerization, we have come a long way. Let me just briefly summarize as to what has been discussed so far, and that where do you proceed from here. And what we have seen is with respect to ethylene, we have made polyethylene of various types, and for these there had been two types of catalyst, mainly so this is the famous Ziegler-Natta catalyst, whereas and these are mainly a multi-site homogeneous catalyst, heterogeneous catalyst. Yes, catalyst, and we have also seen metallocene catalyst, and they are of the formula MAO. They are of the formula M equals group 4 transition metal, as well as X can be halide, alkyl, and so on so forth, and these are called metallocene catalyst. And they are homogeneous in nature, and they provide narrow PDI, polymer, whereas the heterogeneous provide broad PDI polymer, and these are single site catalyst. So these and the system evolved from one to other. So these are the two catalysts, two types of catalyst. One can is heterogeneous, homogeneous, Ziegler-Natta, metallocene, broad PDI, narrow PDI, high activity, low activity. So these are the two types of the catalyst trajectory that we have discussed. Now, using these two catalysts, we had done elaborate study on polyethylene polymerization. Using this, we have also looked at these are polypropylene. It can be isotactic, atactic or syndiotactic depending on the distribution, and we had seen how the catalyst evolved for both of these type of catalysis, and each of these both the Ziegler-Natta type as well as the metallocene types were equally capable of carrying out this kind of polyethylene polymerization in a very nice way and broad way. We had also discussed another interesting example, which is and the catalyst is a metallocene catalyst. Eta 5. So, we had also seen this phenyl indenyl zirconium dichloride with MaO that giving atactic isotactic stereo blocks. Isotactic stereoprotoc polymer polypropylene. So, what we saw a nice application of various types of polymer being produced on demand and at will using some variation of these two type of catalyst. One is heterogeneous and homogeneous, where one can produce not only polyethylene of various grades, not only similarly polypropylene of various grades, one can also have a stereo block polymer of different tacticity attached on the same polymer chain using these catalysis. So, this is a nice fine demonstration of the scope and capability of organometallic chemistry that is that can be put in use. So, fantastic demonstration that champions the field of organometallic chemistry for utility in achieving very difficult or challenging reactions. So, today having covered all of this, today we are going to take a look at two more types of polymerization, particularly the ones that I am talk about. So, we have talked about three types of polymerization process, 1, 2, 3. The fourth one that we would talk about is polymerization between olefin and alpha olefin resulting in polyethylene co alpha olefin polymer. So, this is a polymer that is obtained from copolymerization of two different monomers. This is one, another one, and the polymer would have now two fragments. One is the polyethylene fragments as well as the polyolefin fragments, and the fifth one that we would talk about is copolymerization of olefin with functional monomers. So, in that case again one may have ethylene plus another polyolefin with functional group. Functional group means oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur are heteroatom containing functional mode groups brings polyethylene copolymer functional group polymer. So, here too there are two monomers. One is this functional group bearing olefin copolymerizing giving polyolefin and monomer inserted functional group polymer. The emphasis then became important for developing such types of polymer. Now, one reason for such development is that the surface properties becomes different when one goes for copolymerization. For example, for the fifth process, since the functional group is present, so the copolymer backbone would have a functional group, and functional groups are usually a polar in nature. So, that will render hydrophilicity to the polymer. So, any polymer with hydrophilic application for those purpose, this functionalization copolymerization with olefins and alpha olefins bearing functional groups are important, because all of these polymers, as one sees, they are all hydrophobic in nature, whereas if one can make a polymer with surface functionalized functional group, then those polymers would instead be hydrophilic in nature. So, these are the reasons where which led to the need for being able to copolymerize olefins with alpha olefins as well as ethylene with a monomer bearing functional group. Just to illustrate my point about the hydrophilicity, for example, all of these from here all the way up to here, they are hydrophobic. Whereas this last one will be hydrophilic, because of the presence of the functional group on the polymer backbone. So, to illustrate my point, let me just explain this with this cartoon. So, if one makes a film with polyolefin PE or PP versus one makes another film with copolymerized PE, copolymerized FG monomer. So, with a film with this polymer, this surface is hydrophilic, whereas pure polyethylene surface is hydrophobic. And if one puts a drop of water molecule on top of it, so the water molecule, this being a hydro, will have a concave surface because it will not wet the polymer surface, whereas for this kind of polyolefin with a functional group, if one puts a water on it, so it will be hydrophilic and it will have a shape like this. So, in this case the water will wet the surface, that means it will spread over a larger area of the polyolefin comonomer surface, whereas water will be limited because these being hydrophobic, the water will just have a minimum surface contact with this polyethylene or polypropylene surface. And one can do lot of experiments to demonstrate the wetness of the surface, and one is called contact angle measurement, where they measure this angle between the water surface and the polymer, which is called the contact angle. That will give some indication as to how wet this surface, or to what extent the functional monomer has been incorporated in the catalyst. So, now this provides the basic platform based on which further development of these two polymerization, one is olefin with alpha olefin and olefin with alpha olefin bearing functional monomers were to be done. Now, when one talks about this polymerizing olefin and olefin with alpha olefins, or one talks about polymerizing olefin and olefin with functional monomers, which has a functional group using the catalyst which is Ziegler-Natta catalyst or metallocene catalyst. Then the challenges which one faces are different. For example, if one were to consider this case of if one were to consider this case of copolymerizing olefin with a functional group, then the problem which one faces is that these functional group bearing oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur atoms, they compete in binding to the vacant site of this catalyst. Each of these catalysts should have a vacant site, may be depicted by this. Metallocene also have a vacant site. So, they compete, the functional group competes with binding to this vacant site as well as of the olefin and the olefin of the functional group. And it so happens that this functional group binding to the Lewis acidic metal center, this outweighs the binding of the olefin to the vacant site. So, this binds over here, and as a result the functional group poisons the catalyst. As a result, the functional group poisons the catalyst. Both the functional group and olefin moiety compete for the free coordination sites. Coordination site, and thus the functional group acts as poison, for these catalysts. What happens is this functional group binds more strongly to this Lewis acidic site over here as well as over here, and it poisons the metallocene catalyst and does not allow the polymerization. So, that is a nascent challenge for this type of copolymerization processes, and what it turns out that these poisoning this poisoning of the catalyst catalyst poisoning by this functional group is more prominent for Ziegler-Natta catalyst than for metallocene catalyst. Catalyst poisoning is more prominent for Ziegler-Natta catalyst than for metallocene catalyst. So, this is a interesting observation that in both the cases, in this case as well as in this case as well, this poisoning do happen, but the poisoning of Ziegler-Natta catalyst is more acute and more prominent and wins over. And taking advantage of this process, Weymouth in 1992 reported the following polymerization, where one could produce one could do polymerization of alpha olefins and bearing functional monomer. So, what Weymouth did, taking advantage of this process, Weymouth did homopolymerization of just this functional group using metallocene catalyst. So, the Weymouth's chemistry using Cp star to zirconium methyl boron C6F5 whole 3, and this is called Jordan's cation. Weymouth polymerized Weymouth polymerized this heteroatom bearing heteroatom bearing amino functionalized alpha olefin. So, this was a great discovery built on which people went back and started working on the copolymerization. Even though this is a homopolymerization, of alpha olefin bearing functional group, this was a big discovery. This was a big discovery by itself, because now what Weymouth, this was reported by Weymouth in 1992, what Weymouth demonstrated is that these metallocene catalyst, Weymouth demonstrated that this metallocene catalyst can homopolymerize alpha olefins, and the functional group did not poison the metallocene catalyst, this metallocene catalyst, and was able to give the homopolymer bearing functional group. So, this was a very important and interesting discovery, which sort of led way to the parent problem. The parent problem was of being able to copolymerize first ethylene with alpha olefin and then ethylene with alpha olefin bearing functional group. So, this copolymerization was further developed on the backbone of Weymouth's results, which could polymerize alpha olefins bearing functional group. So, with this we come to the end of today's lecture, and what we have demonstrated is the fine feat of organometallic chemistry, in how the organometallic chemistry, organometallic catalysts triumph over the requirement for producing different types of polyolefin polymer, and we had seen that how this catalyst evolved on going from polymerizing ethylene or propylene by themselves, which are called homopolymerization, and then providing several grades of the homopolymerized products, and then finally how the need for developing copolymer with more polar surfaces on polyolefin backbone was developed, and addressing that the challenges which remained was these functional groups were actually poisoning the catalyst, but one observation was made that the extent of poisoning was more significant for Ziegler-Natta catalyst heterogeneous than for metallocene catalyst, and taking advantage of this knowledge, what Weymouth first did is it paved way for developing this further with copolymerization, and what Weymouth showed was taking a metallocene catalyst, he could successfully homopolymerize alpha olefins bearing amine functional group, albeit in modest yield. So, with this I come to the conclusion of today's lecture. We are going to be talking more about this homopolymerization and copolymerization with olefins and alpha olefins and olefins and alpha olefins bearing functional group, how this really took off, and how more improved catalysts were developed for the copolymerization process. All of these interesting stuff when we meet next. Until then, goodbye and thank you.